Greetings and welcome back, blade lovers. OG Blade Reviews is with you once again. And wow, as you can probably see, I have once again summoned up a daunting task for yours truly. Not for you guys. You're just going to sit back and enjoy it. I'm going to have to go through over a dozen knives, maybe close to 15 or so knives that I keep adding to this group on the table. But what's it about today? It's about not the business end of the knife, but your business end of the knife, the part you hold without being cut, hopefully. And that is the handle or the grip, the scales, the tang, all the specialized terms you would like to prefer me to use. I'll see if I can mention them all. I'm just going to call it a handle. Okay? Your hand goes on the handle. Simple as that, man. But how that handle is shaped and formed, the texture, maybe even the material that it's made of, is all going to count as to how you very carefully manipulate that blade. Whether that is used for EDC tasks, cutting chores, food prep, camp work, and even, yes, tactical and defensive work, since that's my bent here. And a lot of these knives, I would say close to 100% of them are in that category. They're tactical. If you don't like that term, tactical, meaning you can use these knives for defense in a pinch. And I've got all kinds of these knives here. And what's going to happen is we're going to talk about each of these as an example and what kind of example it is. So we're going to start off with the most simple handle shape. I figured that's where I would start. And here we can have somewhat of a reveal. You may not get to see all of them, but you will when I pull them out. The simplest knife handle, and probably one of the first knife handles, maybe even the handle that went on that was part of a volcanic glass knife, you know, some of those early chipped knives, and followed later by others out of brass and bronze and so forth. I'm not a knife historian, so I'm not going to go down that street. At any rate, the basic stick-handled knife, we're going to start off with a Williams design made by Lion Steel out of Sleipner steel. I'm not going to get too into that. We're not going to talk a lot about the blade today. The blade certainly has a huge play in the overall use of a knife. But today we're talking about this business end, part that fits in your hand, hopefully without slipping down the blade, right? And this is a Japanese style knife. This is the Osoraku Zukuri Mini Kaiken that's a mouthful, from Williams. And the Williams in the Japanese tradition prefer the straight handle and a guardless knife. So regardless of how you feel about it, the Williams family feels that this style of knife is perfectly usable for combat, and in fact, with its Tsukamaki wrap that this emulates, had been used for centuries in Japan without a guard. Granted, there are some tanto-style knives that have guards, traditional Japanese, not talking about Americanized tantos. How you hold it is going to make the world of difference. When you thrust with it, James Williams holds this pommel in his hand and backs it up. But also you see what they did here was embellish it with these pretty deep grooves in this micarta handle that really does prevent slippage, whether it's wet or what have you, depending upon, you know, how your hands are. Your flesh is going to go into those grooves. Now this is called the emperor node, because on a stick-handled knife, you're not going to be able to tell tactilely, not tactically, but tactilely, meaning with a sense of touch, where the edges. So they put this emperor node on here. That's a traditional sort of feature on katana handles, Japanese sword. it's raised, so the middle finger can feel it and say, oh yes, well, the edge is forward. So we're going to put that aside, and we are going to keep them all out of the sheaths and put the sheaths to the side. That'll be fun later on. And we're going to go to another stick-like handle on another Williams designed knife. This is the Columbia River designed HZ4, I believe. It's from SK5 Steel. Once again, I say that, but don't need to get too into that. Here we also have a stick-like handle, and I got to tell you, I have been unable to get my hand to slip on this handle. If anything, it's going to bite your hand a little bit. Perfectly made for gloves, I would say. Again, a perfectly uniform, neutral handle, right? You don't know immediately where the edge is. And on this one, you don't have the Emperor node. So you don't know if the edge is forward there or there. That's one downside to it. But that neutral feel does give you, I think, a very good feel in the hand. A little more of an upswept blade on this guy. As I said, not going to get too into it. Yes, there is an SK6, which is the 6.5 inch version. This is about 4.5 inch. I've stuck with the smaller knives today. I'm not going into the big buoys or anything like that. We're talking about carryable knives, knives that you can carry discreetly in your pocket, within your waistband, what have you. May do another get a grip video with larger knives sometime in the future. Do I have another stick type handle? I do, but we can call this stick-like handle somewhat of a modified one because it's not perfectly symmetrical. Almost. I know it's going to look to your eye as if it is, but we have more of a curve here, right? And more of a little bit of a recurve here. Hard to see. Again, it's going to look straight. This is the Musashi, and it is a design by Dauntless Manufacturing. It's out of 3V. I put this together on their website and chose the materials and the gray Cerakote and so on. Actually, I think it's nitride finish. Really nice, traditional Tonto style knife, although it does have the compound grind. Now this is really comfortable, and what they did too with this one is contour it. So you see where your fingers go, the downside of the handle is tapered in. So it's almost, I would say it's a modified stick style handle. Yep, we got to move. So now my next, see if I can pull up my notes here, keep disappearing. Bird's beak. Let's get to TKELL in the bird's beak. Well, this happens to be the well-known and well-regarded Agent 001, designed by a collab with Bob DeMarco, who kind of came up with the idea, and TKELL, Tim Kell. This was one sent to me for review, and I do appreciate it, guys. This knife comes in both a double edge and a non-double edge. This is the double edge version, but here is your bird's beak. You see, it looks a little like a bird, and it's taken from some very popular sword designs and knife designs from the Philippines, as well as Indonesia, where you have this hook, which keeps the hand from sliding backwards. Also allows you, and I didn't get into it with the stick style handles, allows you to cap that pommel with your hand for Pikal use, meaning point down, edge in. In this case, because of the double edge, you get the edge in. And this is also a contoured handle. So it's a bird's beak contoured. We have sort of a quasi finger grips in here. You don't have a grip for every finger, but it feels extremely comfortable and it's very controllable, particularly in a hammer style grip, but you could also put it into a saber grip, which is an angled grip. Okay, got to move on. Another bird's beak style, slightly more modified, is this fresh from the design bench of Michael Jarvis from Auxilliary Manufacturing. This is the production version, the Deadhead version of the Karl Jr., a small version of a knife that was very popular, still is very popular with him. Only 99 bucks for these guys, and this for me has got to be one of the most comfortable, intuitive handles, because now with this I can actually more easily angle it just a little bit. Still works great in point down, edge forward. We don't have an edge in. Very uncomfortable, not too intuitive if you hold it this way, but you could in a pinch. We've got more of an opening here than we do. Let's see if I can get the right orientation. All right, a little more of an open bird's beak there. We got a little more of a hook there, and I'm going to get into some extreme versions of a hook. You'll see with the Armis knives that I'm going to show you, or at least one of them. But I really like this because you get the benefits of being able to pull that out of the sheath, grab it with your thumb and your finger without slipping off. You get a really nice locked-in feeling. And I got to say, thanks, Mike, for sending this my way. This is a beautiful, beautiful, I would say, EDC/tactical knife. Another bird's beak style. Well, we got to go over to a custom. Many of these are not customs. These are production or mid-tech, you might call them, semi-production. Or yeah, semi-production, semi-custom. This one's a full custom. This is by Dirk Pinkerton. This is his Smilodon, a version of it where he mated one kind of handle to his Smilodon blade. This was a few years old. And again, bird's beak, really pronounced one, 90 degrees off to the side, perfectly designed for TKELL work. Look at that, with a raised edge and that Tonto style clip point. And the feeling you get here is that your hand is simply locked into this position. Not meant to be varied too much. You could use this knife this way, but watch out for your thumb. You could use it for that South Narc style technique, Craig Douglas and all of that, where you pull inward or maybe even jab, Filipino 8 style and 9 style. Those are directional numbers for Filipino knife fighting. Okay, so really nice job that Dirk did there on that custom. Do I have any other examples of bird's beak? Yes, oh, certainly do. We have to go over here to, let's see, I got to stop a call from coming in. Sorry about that. This is Compliance Edge, and this is the DCK. Got this a while ago when these first came out, and definitely an extreme bird's beak, like a toucan, right? With these jimps on top. Again, you get that lock in, you get that ability to just hook with, even with one finger, and pull this out. Stone pattern on the handle, somewhat rough jimping in here. No, I wouldn't call it rough. I would just call it highly spaced jimping. He's modified this somewhat, but I don't have a problem with it. Again, I'm not going to get too into that, but again, perfect for pakal, perfect for what we call sock, which is point forward, edge out. And again, it's more of a locked in sort of a thing, although you can cross palm it, angle palm it here with kind of a saber grip. Really, I would say one thing about the bird's beak is that it just gives you a very secure feeling in the hand. Even if you're doing EDC stuff, you know, if you're shaving wood, cutting, although from the shape of this you can tell it's not really so much designed as an EDC knife, much more a tactical sort of a knife. Well, looks like we got one more, at least, bird's beak. And as I was mentioning earlier, this is from Armis Knife and Tool. Michael Grasso sent me this for review. This is his VSK, not DCK, as with Compliance, but VSK, very sharp knife or very stabby knife, however you like to break down that acronym. And another extreme bird's beak style knife. Locked in for sure in either grip. This feels incredible in this position. He will even make you this knife with the reverse edge, with this edge on the inside, dedicated PKELL use. So, however, definitely jabby stabby, VSK, right? And doesn't matter if you got an edge in here, you just can't do this ripping motion. And this makes a very decent, actually, EDC knife. Got kind of a battle-worn sort of finish on here. I don't know if that's the term he uses. You know, distressed, apocalyptic, whatever you want to call it. He's doing a lot of different knives these days, but this was his mainstay. This one in the Mini back in the day. So let's get that back in there. And do we have any other bird's beak knives? No, we don't. So we're going to move on to the finger groove knives. Finger grooves. Not sure that I have an example of that out on the table. Well, yeah, I don't have a straight out version. I think we're going to go to the Viper, what do they call it? Handy, Viper Handy. And this is kind of a finger groove. I would say this is a complex, we could call it a complex style handle, because we've got complex contouring in here, compound grooves. We got a forward finger choil, what I call a split choil, meaning half of it's on the blade, half of it's on the handle. You're going to see an example of that in a little while too, that where we only have that forward split finger groove. But look at the complex contouring here, and looking down the knife, how we've got this swell in the center, and the taper down here by your fingers, and a taper up near the palm. And speaking of taper, a tapered tang. When do we ever see that on a production knife? Very rarely. Again, this is called the Handy, kind of a innocuous sounding name, not very threatening. But this can be used, again, a beautiful blade on this can be used for EDC or tactical. You've got to feel this in your hand to understand how well ergoed this knife is. Just incredible. Everywhere you look, it's contoured. All right, doesn't matter which direction you look at it from, it's meant to feel like putty in your hand. So I think that's a good example of both finger groove and complex. That's Magna Cut, by the way, on that one. And, shall we move on? Shall we move on to, well, I'm going to jump to Tsukamaki wrap, because this is an example of Tsukamaki wrap, and there are many other knives with Tsukamaki wrap. This is the 30, is it the 302 or the 301? God, I got to look. Well, it is the 302. It is AB Knives, Aaron Bieber in Magna Cut. This is his model 302. He gives it no other name, but this man does some of the most exquisite Tsukamaki wrap there is on any custom knife outside Japan, let's say. Bastinelli, definitely up there with Aaron as well, but look at how perfect this is. And I would call this a split choil style knife with some contouring, certainly. We also have a good example of an angled down knife, you see, where we have that hump. That's going to play into how that handle feels as well, and how that handle manipulates the blade, because the point is down, all right? Besides that swedge showing you that it's going down. By the way, got a nice hollow swedge. If you have the opportunity to buy a custom knife from Aaron Bieber, you will not be disappointed, and it'll be a treasured knife for life. One thing about Tsukamaki wrap, getting back to that as a category, Whether it has a built-in choil style guard or not, your fingers, and this was talked about extensively in a recent Knife Junkie podcast with Tommaso Las from Tactical Tavern, because he's getting his 007 from TKELL Knives wrapped this way in special bundles from Bastinelli Knife. So he talks about how your fingers just always find a place in these grooves. Doesn't matter which direction you hold it in. If you haven't held a really well done Tsukamaki wrap, cord wrap, that has been epoxied over so nothing moves and the whole thing is waterproof, all that fabric is waterproof, ray skin underneath. I just can't gush enough over this particular knife, but also knives with the Tsukamaki wrap. If you have the opportunity to pick one up, if you don't have one with a handle wrap like that, definitely do so. What do I jump to now? Well, knives with rings. I'm a little ambivalent about knives with rings. Putting the case over to the side there. Sheath, that is. This is a beautiful, I believe it's the Nighhawk, and if I'm incorrect on that, Tim has lots of names for his knives, and I complain when we don't have names, we have numbers, but this beautiful knife was sent to me for review by Tim. I prefer to hold it this way in the point down, and this way in the point up. I think the value of the ring on a pommel-oriented ring is to grab it and pull it out. So you can grab it and pull it out and position it in your hand like that, okay? There has been lots of talk, especially from the Ed Calderon camp, with Ed's Manifesto and, you know, Sneak Reaper, so on and so forth, that knives with rings are dangerous because they could be pulled out of your hand and the skin on your finger degloved. Well, if it's not sharp in here, that helps. If somebody can't grab your blade, really, and wrench it out of your hand, or perhaps you get struck or stabbed or whatever and your hand goes loose, and then it can be stripped out of your hand. So I do see it as a possibility, but for reasons other than that, personally speaking, and it's just a personal thing, right? Handles are all personal. You may like none of these, or you may like one of these, or all of these for different purposes. But knife handles are a personal thing, certainly are. Here we do have a forward finger groove, and we have the rest of your fingers are just going to lay flat in there. But again, having a ring on the pommel is a very personal thing. You may absolutely love it in your use of the knife. I just don't find a real use for the ring in my knife usage. Again, that's why I might use that ring to pull it out, but after that, that's about it. How about Fred Perrin design? The French tactical knife trainer, knife user. He's a legend. He's right up there with all of the greats. And he's responsible for lots of designs. He's responsible for a great deal of influence on guys like Bastinelli knives, Bastion Cove. And this is a forward ring. You might think that's crazy, but again, when this is in the sheath, let's see if I can find that sheath again. I just put it to the side. May or may not. No, let's see. Yeah, I can find it. I can always find a Bastinelli sheath because they're a bit shiny like that on the Kydex. At any rate, look where they placed the ring. So you can put your finger through while it's still in the sheath and it's in your hand. I think even more so than the pommel ring, this forward ring may seem silly to some. Some don't like it at all, but it is such an incredibly locked-in grip that even if you loosen a little bit, you can grip back again, see? And the way this is shaped, and this knife by Bastinelli once again, is called, got to get you the name, the Harpy. The Harpy. Yeah. Definitely claw-like, like the harpy, mythological creature. I mean, if this is all you know how to do, and I haven't got into folding knives, this is all about fixed knives today, fixed blade knives, but this is kind of, this part's like an egg shape, that oval shape, and then you got one finger groove, two finger grooves, and your fingers fit perfectly in there. I've got medium large hands. If you got real large hands, you know, you may be off the edge there. It may not feel comfortable to you. If you have smaller hands, it may still feel comfortable. But you got this hook and pulling feeling, and this index finger through that hole just gives you lots of power on the pull. Well, I got to move on. Got to move on to another complex contoured handle. And this one's on the Foreigner by Bastinelli. So 2 Bastinellis in a row there. But, you know, Bastinelli hit the lines on his knives and the ergos on his knives. They're really beyond compare. They're incredible. Usually flat, usually light. You can see how flat that is. It's a completely encased tang right up to the end. There's your screw going through the tang there. So you guys worried about strength, that thickness of the tang goes all the way back through the handle. Complex contoured, yes, this is a perfect example of it. You see it on so many of his knives. A forward finger groove, a swale in here for the rest of the fingers, a groove on top, and a swale on the blade out front. So you can hold it up here, but you could also come back and hold it here, right? That's why you've got that double curve, right? If you want to get more room for your thrusting, hold it back there. If you want to choke up and get more into a hammer grip, you can get it there. If you want TKELL, oh God, it's perfect for TKELL. Once again, except you're lacking the inner edge. And we'll talk just a second about the blade. We've got useful jimping way out here, way back here, and even over here. So, you know, he thinks of everything. And if you watch him move a knife on his Instagram videos, you'll see how good the man is. He really knows his stuff. And lately, God, he's even fantastic with a pistol. Really, really artistic as well as masterful and practical. This doesn't look like a real practical knife, but if you hold this Foreigner in your hand, you'll know what I mean. I think it's second only to something like the Handy by Viper. Viper is now part of Fox. Some of you may be telling me that. Well, we're down to, one more bird's beak. I put this on the table because it was sent to me recently by TKELL Knives. Thank you, Tim Kell and company. This is we need to talk more about the blade here than the handle because it's another Agent knife. It's the 007, a design by Tomas Alas, using Bob's Agent style handle, except we've got a beautiful, beautiful elongated Tonto there, very piercy. And yet, as Tomas was describing on the podcast the other day with Bob, definitely something that he foresaw being EDC practical as well as tactical, but same handles with the bird's beak. I think I put that out there just to show that one off. I'm going to talk about a specialized sort of design that you see a lot from Fred Perrin, and this is an oldie but goodie. This is the Street Beat by Spyderco. There you can see Fred Perrin design, VG10 on this. But you've got almost a scalpel style handle. When I was little, my father had a bunch of scalpel handles that I think, I don't know how he got a hold of them post-World War II and whatnot. Scalpels that the surgeons use have similar handles. And this does have a contoured handle, as you can see. The overall knife is very, very short. I mean, it's only, 7 inches roughly, with like a 3-inch, a little over 3-inch blade. But you can get way up there, so you've got way more handle for a small knife than you would ever imagine. Holds perfectly in TKELL, absolutely. Get that nice 90 degree. And the Street Beat is just really a classic. It's got a larger brother called the Street Bowie. That's also just about the same knife, only longer. This locks you in. So without a guard, it's a guardless knife. You have a guard for those that really feel that you need it. And, you know, hey, I'm all for that too. Locked in, really, really firm. And it just is it's a smoother handle. It's not slick. It's a FRN injection molded handle, but one of the best feeling knives in the world, really, as far as design goes. Finally, how about Station 9? The Wild Frenchman, and I guess they're both Frenchmen, working out of Montana with their shop. This is the Station 9. I believe this is the number 12, the Undercover. This is a fantastic knife, and it's a contoured handle, okay? We're going to call that a contoured handle. Does have a bit more of a guard built in than the forward choil, the split choil. Again, I should mention, I call this, my terminology, I believe, unless I picked it up somewhere and forgot, that forward choil. This would be, where are we? This would be more of your split choil, all right, where you're part blade and part handle with your front finger, your index finger. And this would be more of just a forward choil, but a contoured handle. Got this nice bump in here and room for 2 fingers there. Plenty of handle on this knife. It's a bit on the larger side, 4 1/4 inch blade, and the handle itself is about 4 3/4. Plenty of room for my hand. And if you got a little larger hand, even room for yours. Got a little bit of a hint of a bird's beak there, but mainly that big swell for the fingers, and a little bit of a palm swell. Ergos on this are great. You won't get your thumb out there onto the serrations if you're careful. There's just enough room there to get your thumb in place. It feels so secure, very flat. I put this tube shrink stuff that they put on fishing poles that I got on Amazon. It's got a kind of a rawhide sort of a feeling to it. Really nice and secure. And it was just a little more secure than what they gave us, which was some of this fine checkering here. Wicked knife. Not that much either. You know, I think they're coming in under 100. If they're over 100, only by a tiny bit. Everybody's prices are going up these days. We're paying tariffs, we're paying taxes. What can I say? Yes, these are made in China. The Station 9 knives, I believe most or all are either made in Taiwan or China. And that's it. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 knives. I don't know how he did it. Hope I didn't bore you all to death. Hope this has been interesting for you. And there's always more to be learned about the handle side of a knife and how it influences the use of the knife. Be well. Take care. Stay safe, guys.